So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm testing out some new software here, so sorry if there was a slight delay in the beginning. This is going to be top 25 best WCW pay-per-views. Now, I figure why the hell not do this after I did top 25 worst. I mentioned some honorable mentions in the first video for the top 25 worst, which you should totally go and watch, by the way. It's on my YouTube, which you're obviously watching this from. So anyway, this is going to be me mentioning some honorable mentions and then going into other ones and then doing some various shows. So, and this is just going to be me briefly mentioning some titles, and then we're going to go on from that. And if I don't mention any matches, specific matches, don't get upset. There's so many matches to remember. So if something sticks out, I'll mention it. So anyway, Halloween Havoc 1992, which I thought had some pretty good matches and, a pretty solid undercard and everything. Even if Ron Simmons is, and that's easy for me to say, his world title run, while good, wasn't as great as it could have been because he put so much pressure on himself to be this, to be such a great spokesperson for black athletes everywhere. And he was. Ron Simmons was a tremendous spokesperson and a very good world champion. At least he tried to be. Now, was it ultimately the best title reign ever? No, but it still worked just fine. So he was, I believe, against the Barbarian, if I remember right, or I know that he faced Barbarian at some point. Still, he had some fine title defenses. And so Halloween Havoc 92, Chi-Town Rumble 89 with the Great Flair Steamboat match, the first of their trilogy that was on, that was in 89. Halloween Havoc 1997, despite Piper versus Hogan not being the best cage match and ending with a whole bunch of Sting impersonators and everything, had a really solid undercard. Savage and DDP was a great match. Rey versus Eddie was a great match. And there were a number of other matches also on there. Great American Bash 97, which had had a really solid undercard as well. And even really was WCW at its peak. Even with some of the booking decisions, Great American Bash 97 was fun. And then Super Brawl 4, which was also quite a fun event. I mean, Super Brawl 4 wasn't the best thing ever, but this was the one that took place in 94, and it had Flair versus Vader and stuff like that and everything, so it was quite a bit of fun. And Super Brawl 4 was a pretty good peak right before Hogan came in. And then you had Starrcade 97, where despite the dumb decision to have Sting, Sting and Hogan be booked to smithereens instead of just booking it clean and having Sting beat Hogan and not doing the whole stupid false finish thing, it would have been a whole lot better. But hey, Starrcade 97 still had Eddie versus Dean and had some very, very good matches underneath that. And so now we get into the top 25, which you have Fall Brawl 1995, which despite the Hogan, military, the guys dressed up in the military, war paint, face paint, and camo stuff or whatever, against the Dungeon of Doom and War Games, it wasn't all that great. You still had a pretty solid undercard. I mean, Arn versus Flair was a particularly good match here, and there was some other stuff also that was really quite good. So this is one I recommend checking out, even with the goofy finish, in the goofy end. Fall Brawl 93, pretty much the same things. Number 24. Flair versus Rick Rude was a particularly good match. There were a couple other good undercard matches. Sure, the War Games with let's see, this was one where the Shockmaster actually managed to pick up the win right after the Shockmaster's shockingly bad debut. Poor, as Dusty said, poor Uncle Fred Ottman, who was Typhoon and Tugboat before. I mean, not that the Shockmaster's character would have ever gone well, but my God, I mean, it was just so ridiculous. It was just so bad, but it was still fun. It was still fun for what it was, and it had a really solid undercard. I mean, not every match is great, but particularly Rude versus Flair is a dream match of mine and one that I really enjoyed. So I was really happy to see it. So it gets on the list. And there are other honorable mentions that I wrote here that I could put in. I mean, it's like, and in fact, I'll actually mention some honorable mentions on the next show. I'll just do that before. But now we go to number 23, which is Bash at Beach 97. This is Lex Luger and the Giant versus Hogan and Dennis Rodman. That was the main event. Now there was some really good matches underneath it. But I remember one thing vividly about this. Now, Rodman, and I pick on Rodman quite a bit, he seemed like he was a bit of an egotist, and he always caught the entertainment aspect of sports and everything just fine. Did the NBA with the Chicago Bulls, which is a favorite team of mine. And admittedly, I always thought his antics were going to be his undoing, and they were, but he did win a lot of championships, or at least helped contribute to a lot of championships, and has a few rings, even if he's pretty much fallen completely off the wagon at this point. But still, Dennis Rodman getting in the ring, you're like, this is not something you thought you would see. And what was great about it is, what was it? Like you had Hogan, wrestling a bit or whatever, and then they made the tag, building it up for Rodman. Rodman gets in the ring with Lex Luger, has his shades on still, has his do-rag on, bandana, whatever the hell you want to call it. And okay, you're like thinking, Rodman's just going to get thrown around. Rodman's a really good athlete, don't get me wrong, but he's stepping into a whole different world. He locks up with Lex Luger, does an arm drag, the crowd goes fucking nuts. I mean, listen to the pop. It's like, if you get a chance, check it out, Bash at the Beach 97. The pop that he gets when he arm drags Lex Luger, which, I mean, and Luger was really hot at that point. Like, the crowd was really behind Lex Luger because they let him get over more organically. If only WWE would have done that with Reigns, they wouldn't have to be doing this desperate thing of trying to put him against Rusev and give him the U.S. title. We're all screwed if that happens. Back to WCW, though. Anyways, but the reaction that Dennis Rodman got when he arm dragged Lex Luger, and I mean, he did it crisp. Now, I mean, obviously Luger and others helped, train Rodman. I'm sure Hogan helped train Rodman. But still, Rodman really got it. He got the wrestling aspect of it. Now all of his matches are great. He didn't wrestle a lot. His last actual WCW match was against Randy Savage. Yeah, and that was Randy Savage's last pay-per-view match at Road Wild 99. That was not a good pay-per-view. Had Vampiro on it, so that made the first couple matches okay. I think he was in the first or second match, so that was all right. I'm a mark for Vampiro. I think he's got a great story, and he was a pretty good wrestler. But this whole thing with Bash at the Beach 97 was just such a great reaction. It was a great build. And so I'll give Rodman credit, at least on this night, he got it, and it worked pretty damn well. And like I said, the matches before, the undercard was just fine. So Bash at the Beach 97 was a pretty solid pay-per-view. And then we go to Starrcade 1996. Now, yes, Roddy Piper versus Hulk Hogan was a match that was about at least 6 years past its whole prime. The crowd was crazy for them. And it was certainly a match that a lot of people tuned in to see. And it was fun. Don't get me wrong. But what I remember about this one is you had Rey Mysterio versus Jushin Thunder Liger. And I'm a major mark for Liger. I think the guy's great. And the guy needs to be in the WWE Hall of Fame whenever he retires, which is not going to be for a few years. Supposed to apparently be retiring within the next 5 years. And I can't remember if he announced that this year or just late last year. But regardless, Liger's had a hell of a career. He started in 1984. And you have him against Rey Mysterio. This is back when Rey's knee status was still pretty good. And Liger had just had a brain tumor removed. Like, I mean, a few months before this, like earlier in the year. And it was weird to see him, like, compete. I mean, I think he competed in WCW earlier that year. I think in, like, May of 96. May or June. I think it was May. Competed against Dean Malenko in a match that should have been featured better than it was. Excuse me. But it was more throwaway. And it was kind of stupid. But what I enjoyed about this was hearing the commentary, which actually put over both guys. And Mike Tenay talked about how Liger had a brain tumor removed. And the fact that Liger is back in the ring so soon. Like, because a lot of people could have brain tumor removed. Okay, I'll be back maybe within a year or whatever I'm going to do. It depends on what they had to do to get the tumor out, where it was in the brain, whether it was, here, lower, or whether it was upper, whatever. But the fact that he was back in the ring so soon was just a miracle, and he performed great. And he was more deliberate taking down Rey because Rey was faster. It's not often you had a guy faster than Liger, but it worked really well, and it was really good stuff. Then you also had, and I don't know why this is escaping me, but God, let's see what you had. You had, I believe, Ultimo Dragon versus Dean Malenko, if I remember right. So I know they faced off at Clash of the Champions in January, just soon after that. But you had Ultimo Dragon versus Dean Malenko, and that was a really good match. That was a solid piece of work. And there were other good undercard matches that were there, but those are two in particular. The Liger Rey one really sticks out in my mind as being one that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. So now we're going to go to Spring Stampede 1999. This is pretty much the last good WCW pay-per-view, at least as good as it was going to be. It was in Tacoma, Washington. I was not able to go. I live only 75 miles from Tacoma. I was not able to go, sadly, which I'm disappointed by looking back in retrospect because I would like to have seen DDP, Sting, Ric Flair, Randy Savage, and a number of other. I mean, Hogan was there also. I never got to see Hogan live, so that would have been kind of cool. I was able to see Flair live once on a Raw right after Unforgiven in 2004, and it was a throwaway match, but still, it was nice to see Flair in the ring. Nice to see that I was able to say I saw Ric Flair in the ring. And I'm not saying people can't say that, but for me, who was not able to go to a wrestling event before that, that was pretty cool. But Spring Stampede '99 had a great, cruiserweight match. Kidman was really on fire at that point. You had, but you had the main event, which was Flair. You had Savage as referee. You had Ric Flair, DDP, Sting, and Hogan, and that was a really good main event. And it was really great because you got to see DDP win the world title, and you got to see it where Randy Savage handed DDP the world title after all the turmoil they had being rivals in '97 and even a couple matches in '98. I mean, they were good friends behind the scenes, but you didn't know that at the time. Even though you probably suspected it, so you could tell they respect each other. They went all out on each other, but it was great stuff. And Spring Stampede '99 was pretty much the last high watermark of WCW, and then it just started to give up. Like it was really where they hit almost everything. Like even with any of the bad matches, you still had a whole lot of fun wrapped up in this pay-per-view with some really good matches, so I really enjoyed it. Number 20, Starrcade '87. Ron Garvin as the NWA champion. It was transitional and everything, and Flair beat him. It was still a fun match. It was nice to see Ron Garvin get his just due because he had no problem putting Flair over. It was still really good stuff. I really enjoyed it. I mean, there was other stuff. I believe this was the one where I believe Nikita Koloff and Terry Taylor faced off against each other, and you're like, okay, is that match going to go so well? It went really, 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 really well. Nikita Koloff hitting the sickle. It was great stuff. I really enjoyed it, and it was tremendous. It was tremendous stuff. It was fantastic. Being able to watch that, I didn't think that match was going to be that good, and it was. And there was really other solid undercard matches. Sting was part of a 6-man tag where it was really, really good stuff. I think he was teaming with Michael P.S. Hayes, and I forget who else. I think it was Rick Steiner. I'm not sure. But Starrcade '87 was like, it was the last one under the NWA banner, or at least Jim Crockett banner, I believe. And Starrcade '87, while not great, while not the greatest ever, it was better. To me, it was better than the last couple Starrcade. To me, '86 was good, but it was better than '84. And so Starrcade '87 had really an on-fire crowd. It was in Chicago, Illinois. You had the Road Warriors versus Tully and Arn Anderson. That was good stuff. It was really quality wrestling. And then Bash at the Beach, 1996. Hogan's heel turn. That's pretty much what we're going with here. Hogan's heel turn was the whole thing to really set this pay-per-view just above some others. Not all others. There were some matches that weren't all that good. There was, this did have Rey's pay-per-view debut, where he faced, well, no, it was not his pay-per-view debut. No, I take that back, because he faced Dean Malenko the month before Great American Bash in '96. And then faced Psychosis here, which was another good match. And then Rey actually got a title shot the next night and beat Dean Malenko on Nitro, which was really nice. But there were some other good matches also, some stuff that wasn't all that good. I believe this was the end of the John Tenta versus Rey trailer, a.k.a. Big Boss Man, Big Bubba, or whatever. This is the end of their feud, which was a horrifying feud. It was not any good. Even though both are good workers for big guys, and RIP to both, it was not a great, it was not a great rivalry. So anyway, that's where I'm going to leave this off. So Hogan's heel turn pretty much sets us one up, and we leave off at 19. Going to be back here in a bit, probably do some more. Follow me on Twitter if you'd like, @RebornAgain, REBOURN again. I hope this came through, folks. See ya.